right, guys, how we doing? Here we are on the 6th of November here, Wednesday, kind of middle of the day. So winner of our poll here was VeChain. So I always like to start out here on the daily, just get some perspective. Now we do have a new all-time low that we tagged here just recently at the end of September. It's good to get some perspective, some of the key pivots you might expect to run into. In fact, I'm just using this prior wick here. It looks like we've just run into a little resistance there. So out here, important to get some perspective. So there's, obvious pivots like this here. So we're going to need to get through all of that if we're going to get rolling up here. So maybe we've got the start of something where we're going to need to, we're going to need to see some progression here. So, the one thing that I would, kind of a caveat here is let's not get overly excited here because we just had this, right, which looked like a very clear impulse. I had this kind of surprising extra leg on it, right? So if this was our 2 here, right, so here's 50, right? So you can see algos were in here. Here's 50 to their target, reaction, got second target. So you just be mindful as this looks quite similar. And this was a big disappointment. So, and of course now we invalidate. So this has to be turned into some sort of an ABC as we get a fresh low here. So, right, I make that point often, no longer an internal retracement, right? We've gone external. So with that perspective, let's get this down here. So kind of outlined here. Let's go. You don't really see much here until you get down to an hourly. So it's kind of interesting here. So this has been fairly good, right? So it's been technical. So obvious count here seems to be working out rather well. So length of the 1, here's the 50. So we get well through. Get right on there. Yeah. So we get through second target. So since we only make the 50 here, that makes sense. So if I use our alternate price projection tool here. So where's our high probability zone for a third? Right between the 1618, 175. We literally go into it, split it, and then we get the retrace here. So it does look like we go into, I guess you'd have to call this a triangle for our fourth. It's A, B, C, D, E, right? The little underthrow in the D, but I might allow it. All right, so that looks like we get our 4 here. And now from here, so if I take the length of the 1 through 3, well, here's our 50. Now we're just coming up. So this would be the, remember, algo doesn't care about an Elliott count. So here, tagging the 50, couple of tries at it, but now front run could well be. The other thing we might look at here is length of the 1 projected from the 4. Now it's tricky with a triangle, so you've got to consider either the lowest low, right, if indeed that's going to play that way, or the last pivot before we go up. And here we've got the 127, 138 window here. We're just coming up on the algo target from this 50, right? So the algo that bought here, right, that's their target, right? So wouldn't be all that surprised if we started to exhaust here. Now looking at our indicators here, clearly a big influx of buyers here. We don't quite yet have, pardon me, I shouldn't say it that way. So we have our peak here. All right, now there's a fairly good amount of distance here, but you can see the 3 and the 5. So we could very well be top heavy here. Now, but this is encouraging for bulls. Now you see as we start to roll over here, just because we come out of the technically what's considered overbought doesn't mean we have to retrace all the way to oversold. Often you'll see the RSI pivot at the 50 and then head back up. So to see it come down here and then head back up wouldn't be terribly surprising. Let's get this. So we've got a decent impulse off of the low. Now let's see if the geometry is worthwhile here. This might be too sharp here, but use it here. Well, we can go to a shift. See if that looks any better. Maybe a modified shift. Okay, so modified shift being just a channel. So if I were channeling this up, now let me get that dialed in there. Yeah, so not terrible. Interesting here. So if we're going to get if that's a 1, we're going to get a true second, right? So again, a little early to confirm that that's our pivot. but it's a contender for it. So if we're going to come down, we'd be expecting 3 to come down, right? If we can get something along those lines, right, that's a must take. Right, certainly a low cost. Note here where we've got all of this market acceptance here. So to see us retrace a little bit, you're buying it here. It's low cost, right? No question about that. So whether you want to, this will, so just a couple of obvious spots, right? So that will be a point of interest. Now, if we're going to come down here, so you might see, so maybe your A, B, something like that. We'll have to wait and see how that resolves. And then I think it's reasonable to say we've got pretty good support teed up here around the 38. So can we get through all of that and get down here? Well, here's really what we're looking for. Right, a little low volume here right at the golden zone, right, this relative to this one pivot. So you get a little pocket there. So if this were start to come down, now you're kind of in a hurry up and wait if you're a bull here. Because while, certainly it's possible this could get relabeled and maybe this ends up as we get more of an extension in the 5. It actually looks like, well, if you dig into the 5th, it looks like you'd have to do it this way. Yeah, it looks like you might, here, let's just check that. This could have another kick in it. So, oh shit, you are, that's the problem with it. So let's get down here and let's go to white on the smaller one, or that's what I want to go bigger one. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4 looks like I could have another push in here. So let's just check that. If that is the one, I'm gonna use the lower low. So we got 200, 227. 2 for the 3rd at this degree. Yeah, so you can kind of see maybe this is just our 3 before there's a 4 going in, so that would line up rather nicely. So let's think about that as an alternate here that we're not done just yet. So we put our 5 a little higher. All right, so if we're going to come back, anywhere in this zone would be ideal. So this kind of stands out. So if we do come back down here and something along these lines, boy, that sets up rather nicely. That would give us more completion here. So what would that do for us in terms of, I might at this point take length of 1 through the 3, pivot from the 4. Okay, there's my 100. So this is not an unreasonable upper target. Right, and see here, I don't have any confidence in that because I don't know that the pivot is in here. I don't have this pivot, so I'm just kind of speculating. Maybe we get something along those lines if we're going to come down, assuming this is our pivot high, which a little early to make that assumption. But if we get something along these lines down here, we get that lower parallel would be just textbook, one more pop up for the 5. Then again, the whole thing has to be reconsidered. So if I get, then if we were to go that high. Now, let me just redraw it or I'm going to lose my place here. All right, so if we get up there from the low, all right, so if we got that far, now this gets a little more in line with this big block of market acceptance here. So something along these lines, and this kind of may come back into play. So I think you're still in a, so I wouldn't buy it here. Excuse me, I wouldn't sell it, because we have the start of a new trend. So I would just be, I'd put an alert on this pivot. Right? We come down here and start to hit some of that. I want to pay attention and see what the structure looks like here. Yeah, so is that tradable? Sure. This is certainly setting up. That's a contender, right? You're not going to get rich on that, but that's certainly setting up. But the bigger one, not assuming we get this to play, right? That's the one you want. Right, and just I kind of bring you back to, relentless downtrend where, 0 is not too far down. Well, where's 0? Well, I guess, when you're going in at this degree, we got a little room down here. But remember this one, right, looked very similar, right? Looked like we had this in a smaller degree. So maybe we're just getting started here, right? That's the assumption that if we do have a good low here, and you can dig 5 out of that, if this is a good low to a fresh all-time low, well, at some point we got to get a motive to dig us out of here. So something like this does make sense. We're going to need alt season to fly. I don't think this would be a standout that's going to go by itself. Right? It's not that strong, but something like that in sync with an alt. Alt's starting to rally. Yeah, reasonable, right? You can certainly buy some size down here. Well, I mean relative, right? It's all relative to your risk tolerance. No, at this price point, no need to use or margin there. So, well, it's tradable. Right? I don't know that I would chase that little one myself, right? The little one, I'd like to see that 5 complete. This one, though, I'd be all over, right? This one, I like that all day. All right, guys, there you go. Good sign to see it, but I don't think we're shopping for Lambos just yet. All right, guys, back to you later.